Hello there,
General Kenobi.
and welcome to another episode of the Prequel Gang podcast, the show where we talk about movies and stuff, and completely unscripted.
Oh yeah. In case you guys didn't see the last one, we talked about episode 1. We originally intended to talk about all the prequels, but that went on for way longer than we intended it to.
You can't talk about all 3 prequels in 15 minutes, bro.
I know, but still. That's why we're making 3 separate videos for this. Okay. So anyway, in this episode of the PGP, we are talking about Attack of the Clones.
Oh yeah, this movie's a banger. Anyway, so one thing that we completely forgot to mention when we were talking about The Phantom Menace is the character of Padme, aka Queen Amidala of Naboo. So basically, in this movie, she's not the Queen of Naboo anymore, she is the Senator of the Republic, and it's... What?
She's not the Senator of the Republic, she's
senator.
a Senator in the Republic.
Yes, I worded that very wrong. How much should I slap myself?
0 times.
Okay. So anyway, and Anakin, went in episode 1, he started kind of like falling in love with Padme, and like he even asked her if
Are
she was
you an angel?
What? Anyway, so in this movie, Anakin has grown. I think this movie takes place about 10 years after the first one, I think.
Yeah, roughly, because I think Padme was like 14 in this, and then in the first one, and then in this one she's like 20-ish, like 23 or so.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so Anakin starts, kind of falling in love with Padme, and meanwhile, someone tried to kind of assassinate Padme, and then that kind of puts the Jedi Council, which we forgot to mention in part 1.
We really didn't have to mention Padme or the Jedi Council in part 1 because they played a much larger role in this movie.
Okay, so basically the Jedi Council, they're a bunch of Jedi, including Yoda, who are like, they're like they play kind of a role in...
They're Jedi Masters, and they're the heads of the Jedi. They lead the Jedi.
Yeah, basically. So, basically, everyone was, they wanted to protect Padme, and someone was trying to assassinate her while she was sleeping with, these worms, and then Anakin and Obi-Wan, they went in to save her, and then Anakin was, kind of on a mission to protect Padme. They went to Naboo while Obi-Wan went to check out the new clone army that someone was making.
Well, he didn't originally intend to see a clone army. He kind of just showed up on Kamino, and then it's really more of a creepy scene if you think about it, because he just shows up on this completely dark and rainy planet. He is greeted by these fish people with really long necks, and they're just like, oh yeah, we've been expecting you, and they're just extremely creepy.
200,000 units are ready, with 1 million more well on the way.
Me when I click on Chrome more than once. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, actually, right before that, I liked, we can't not mention Impossible, perhaps the archives are incomplete. Basically, the context of that was Obi-Wan was looking for Kamino in the archives, and he couldn't find them, and then he was impossible, perhaps the archives are incomplete. Then he went over to the Jedi, to Yoda for help, and they figured out that someone must have deleted it from the archives.
So then he goes to Mr. Well, what do you know? Dexter, whatever his name is, it's Dexter something.
No, I'm pretty sure his name is Dex. No?
Probably short for Dexter. I call him Dexter for some reason. Yeah, it's probably just Dex. I used to have an encyclopedia of all the characters that I don't have anymore because I donated it or something. But yeah, and then basically he tells him it's from Kamino. So then Obi-Wan goes to Kamino in his 1-seat starship and intends to pick up a bounty hunter and bring him back all the way to Coruscant in a 1-seat starship, which is kind of ridiculous. But basically, he goes there, so he sees the clone army, and the Kaminoans which is the species that he meets there, show him the original donor of the DNA for the clone army, which is Jango Fett.
Actually, one thing I want to say about that, the first time I heard Jango Fett's voice, I was like, hold on, I recognize that guy. That's Boba Fett. No, then it turns out no. Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett, and they have the same voice. Well, at least in like the Blu-ray versions of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett has Jango Fett's voice. Apparently, in the original versions, he didn't. But that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, definitely. But so yeah, basically they kind of had this like passive aggressive scene where Obi-Wan kind of sees his armor and he knows he's a bounty hunter. So then they basically have like a conversation. Obi-Wan leaves.
They fight.
And then they fight for like 2 minutes. And
it's a very cool scene, honestly. It's very cool. I think the way they were fighting, like especially at one point where Obi-Wan had Jango Fett like tied up, but then he kind of fell down and Obi-Wan fell with him, and it was like overall it was like a really cool scene. And then Obi-Wan placed a tracking device onto Jango Fett's ship, and then he followed him into an asteroid field. Now I'm not sure if I really entirely appreciate the way they did the asteroid field scene. Like in this movie, they were just like casually went in. But like if you remember in The Empire Strikes Back, they were setting it up as something really dangerous and something that they can only do with like a skilled pilot. But here, no, they just kind of fly in. No big deal.
yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about the clones themselves. I absolutely love them. They look like stormtroopers. Yeah, they look like stormtroopers, except way cooler. Like, I love just one, like, the crest on their helmet and the visors and the weapons and the armor. It just looks so cool. Not to mention they have the coolest vehicles. And I think this is, like, the first movie where they actually successfully had, like, this many CGI replications of one person to make it look like an actual army. Like, they could do this like originally, but they couldn't do it where they had like the same faces and everything, or like the same voices. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how did they pull that off?
Lots and lots of editing and CGI. But yeah, definitely the clones are really cool. It's an amazing concept, and it's just so creative of George Lucas. Like,
it is.
It probably took him forever to think of this. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, seriously, he had the idea of the Clone Wars from, like, because they mentioned it in the original trilogy.
Yeah, they did. In the very first movie, it was like, Luke was like, you fought in the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan? Or Ben, or whatever?
Yeah, he had that to go off of, but he had so much other stuff that was just left up to question. Like, he knew they had to be clones, but pretty much nothing else. And then you get the entire Clone Wars series, which was just so well designed. You just had, like, it's basically, if you've never watched the Clone Wars, it basically goes into how the clones are trying to be individuals, how the clones are individual, even though they're technically the same person. Like Yoda says in the first episode of the Clone Wars, the same faces you have, but inside very different you are. Obviously he talks backwards, so like he's just like, you have the same faces, but inside you're very different people.
Yeah, I think that is something to note. And also another thing, Anakin and Padme, like their relationship, a lot of people complained that it was a bit rushed, but I think that, like, Anakin, he, in the first episode, he really only had two women in his life. He had his mother and he had Padme. And he naturally, he didn't really, see many people probably in between episodes 1 and 2. Like, he didn't really talk to anyone like that much, besides Obi-Wan, of course. But now, why did Padme fall in love with Anakin? I don't know.
I guess she really was just like, that's the thing. She was just so naive in these movies that she basically was willing just to follow him anywhere. Like, for example, to Geonosis. And then she basically, like, fell into that trap. Like, she was so naive to see that, like, to fall in love with like the little boy that she knew, and then just to like basically see him be corrupted and then die of sadness.
Yeah. So anyway, so Anakin and Padme they go to Padme's home planet of Naboo, and they were talking a bit, and Padme mentions how when she was a kid she used to like kind of lie down on the sand, and then Anakin says the best line, "I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything's soft and smooth."
And then he awkwardly touches Padme's hand.
Yeah, so a lot of people criticize Hayden Christensen's performance for like being awkward and stuff, but think about it. He didn't really have much of a social life. Like the Jedi, they were always talking about, just don't have all these feelings. You gotta push them to the side. In fact, they didn't want to train Anakin at first because he was too old. He had a lot of feelings that he shouldn't be having. Like fear that was supposedly led to the dark side, which kind of did in this case. But also, like, it would be detrimental for him to, like, have feelings of love, and so he never had the experience, so of course when he was talking about sand, it came out awkward, like he was trying to be romantic, but of course it came out awkward the first time.
What the hell does detrimental mean?
What?
What does detrimental mean?
Like, it's like, bad.
Echo. Define detrimental.
As an adjective, detrimental is usually defined as causing detriment, as loss or injury, damaging, harmful.
That is so helpful. As an adjective, detrimental is usually defined as causing detriment. Wow, thanks, Echo. So helpful. I hate it when he does that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, God. Oh, wait. We haven't talked about the memes yet. I hate it when he does that.
Yes, that's the meme where like in the beginning of the movie, they were chasing someone. Anakin jumps off the speeder bike thingy, while Obi-Wan was on it, and Obi-Wan was like, "I hate it when he does that."
And then there's another big meme in that scene's, "You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life." Yeah, that's a big meme. We love that meme too. We pretty much love all the memes in the prequels. There's just so many.
Sometimes we just like speak in prequel memes.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you'll hear an entire conversation between us in school or something where we're just quoting Star Wars. Like literally the entire conversation will just be quoting Star Wars.
Like sometimes I don't even know how we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, at one point, Anakin, he just starts getting a lot of nightmares about his mother dying, and so he decides, you know what, I gotta go help her. This is ridiculous. So they go to Tatooine, and they found out that his mother has actually been sold to some guy named what was his name, Lars or something.
Yeah, because that was originally like Luke's uncle's father.
Right, yeah. So, and then she got captured by the Sand People / Tusken Raiders / whatever they're supposed to be called. Okay, let me just address this. What are they called? Like, in Episode 2, they're called Tusken Raiders. In Episode 4, they're called Sand People. Which one is it?
I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. I guess the proper name for them it's kind of like just slang. Like Sand People is just like slang, but like Tusken Raiders is actually what they're called.
Okay. So anyway, Anakin goes to investigate. He finds his mother, and she was like dying, and his mother was like she recognized him, and then she died right in his arms, and it was like really sad. And then Anakin got really angry, and then he just started killing all of the Sand People, not just the men, but the women and the children too.
I slaughtered them like animals, and I forget how the rest of the scene.
No,
and I killed them, all of them. Not just the men, but the women and the children too.
They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them. Anakin, to be angry is to be human.
Don't ever talk to your girlfriend like this. Okay, now let's talk about Geonosis. I love this planet. Like, seriously, it's so well designed, and just the battle sequence on Geonosis is just a great ending to the movie. Because
let's talk about Count Dooku.
yeah, Count Dooku, I'm not quite sure about him. Like,
I like him as a villain.
I've kind of mutual feelings towards him because he's like a good bridge character. Like, he's an okay villain, but he isn't the best. But anyway, going back to Geonosis, I really like this battle sequence because it really introduces the clones well. Because it gives that like sense of trust that the Jedi have towards these clones that will eventually be broken.
Yeah, and along those lines, how Anakin had to like transmit a message from Obi-Wan to like to the Jedi Council on Coruscant, and then he decided, okay, they're probably not going to get there in time. We got to go help him. And then they get to Geonosis, and there's this whole scene in like the factory thing place, and it was like, I think it was like really well done. And you know, C-3PO and R2-D2 are also there, and C-3PO's head gets put onto a battle droid, and I think that made some pretty funny moments.
They should have put Darth C-3PO's eyes on the thing, because like in the Rise of Skywalker, he gets like red eyes, and they should have put it on him, so he's just like crazy killer guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, but you get the point. Anyway, I think that's
No.
What else do you
no.
gotta talk about?
We gotta talk about the other meme that like this, not really a meme that, but like a more like a funny scene. So Anakin and Padme, they get captured, and they like get like chained to these poles next to Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan was like, okay, I was beginning to wonder if you got my message. I'm sorry, Master. I transmitted it to Coruscant like you said. Then we decided to come and rescue you. Good job.
What have I done?
Good job. That's
What have I done? I've forgotten the line. Oh God.
No. The line is "good job," and then like I always laughed when I heard that, and it was hilarious.
That's basically whatever we say when when one of us texts back to each other after like a while. We basically just reply with, "I was beginning to wonder if you got my message."
Yeah. And then the whole battle there, like Kenny said, it was like really well done, and all the Jedi were there, and all the clones, and like, you know, the Jedi, they were putting a lot of trust in these clones, and it seemed to be working out. And then the lightsaber fight at first between Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku, like that was done well. Like Count Dooku was like overpowering them, like both of them. Then Yoda comes in, then he starts doing all these crazy flips. Like he starts doing all these crazy flips with his lightsaber, and it was cool.
Yeah, I also believe that battle sequence is like great in like kind of a more subtle way, where it leads to the distrust that the clones kind of have in the Jedi. Like it leads to explanations why the clones would distrust the Jedi. It's because like it's basically a bunch of inexperienced, like just a bunch of regular people like leading them into a charge that's almost to their death because they have no cover. They're basically just running aimlessly towards the enemy, which is really dangerous in like battle because they're openly being shot at by like a trained military or like a programmed in this case. But yeah, that's definitely going to do it for this video.
Yeah. So anyway, episode 2, Anakin and Padme get married at the end, and overall, I think it was a great movie. Definitely does not deserve any of the hate it gets. Also, Hayden Christensen is perfect as Anakin. I just want to point that out.
I rate this movie 10 grains of sand out of 200,000 units ready and 1 million more well on the way.
Okay. Anyway, stay tuned for part 3 and keep having the high ground.